wanted to tell a story about the Spengler family, about this 12-year-old girl and her teenage brother, and how they inherit this legacy, about how they inherit this Ghostbusters equipment, discover who they are, and are set forth on an adventure they couldn't possibly imagine. You know, that we're not all born looking like Wonder Woman or Thor, but we can all be a Ghostbuster. And that's why I love them. I think that's why everybody loves them. And I think that's why it's kind of a thrill to watch this girl who is otherwise just this brainiac that people don't understand, and she becomes a hero in this film when she puts on the flight suit and dons a proton pack. Gil and I grew up watching the cartoons. Gil and I grew up playing with the toys and reading the comics. We're fans. And we wanted to make a movie that felt the way we did when we were kids. This isn't a movie about the Ghostbusters. This is a movie about all of us who grew up wanting to be Ghostbusters and what it would feel like to finally put on the suit and finally put on the pack and have a trap and have the PKA meter and get in the car and us taking it one step further of what if you were hanging off the side of the car, flying around a corner with an RTV trying to catch a ghost? It's for everyone who's ever dreamt of being a Ghostbuster. Yeah, it certainly was. You know, Gil Kenan and I are the same age, and we grew up in the 80s at a time when extraordinary movies were being told by extraordinary filmmakers. And one thing we loved about those films, the ones you mentioned, like E.T., like Back to the Future, like Goonies and Gremlins, is they took the young people seriously. They set these young people on adventures and gave them real scares and gave them real foes. We wanted to make a movie like that. We don't think there's enough films like that. There's a lot of films about superheroes now, but there's fewer and fewer stories told about young people who find a treasure map or follow some sort of thread that puts them on an adventure. You know what's funny is there are so many that I still don't know about because the props people, set decorators, wardrobe people, the visual effects artists, the sound mixers, they were all hiding their own Easter eggs, and they told me about them later. So everyone was putting them in, and some are barely visible. For instance, you know there's a line in the original Ghostbusters where Egon says, "I once had half a slinky, but I straightened it." So there's a straightened slinky in the background of one shot. There's so many that I couldn't even name. No, I think there's an impossible list. If you love Ghostbusters, there's so much waiting for you to find in this movie. And by the way, if it's your first time seeing a Ghostbusters film, you know, this movie is totally ready for you. But if you've seen Ghostbusters 1,000 times, you're gonna see all kinds of little details that you pick up on. And sometimes you're just gonna even hear them. You're gonna hear sounds and you're gonna recognize them. That was the great decision that my father made in 1984. He made this decision that while other comedies don't take the horror seriously, my father wanted to take the horror seriously, the science fiction seriously. I mean, Ghostbusters 1984 was a comedy that got nominated for Best Special Effects at the Oscars. It was so unique in that sense, and obviously created a very high bar for us that, you know, for us to achieve when it came to scares and when it came to visual effects. It's extreme, but I thought it was fun, and what was really cool for us is that we got to do it practically. You know, that wasn't a visual effect. That was a puppet. Gil Kenan, my co-writer, and I were in the writer's room and we were figuring this character out. And I think I said something like, he's got some goofy name like Grooberson or something. And Gil was like, that's it. And we were just like, that was it for life. We really wanted to dovetail in back into a storyline that everyone was familiar with and continue and close off part of the mythology that began in 1984, but at the same time, set off characters and raise questions that could lead to the future of Ghostbusters. If you see the movie, you'll notice that in our post-credit sequence, we start to point to where we might be going.
It's a beautiful proton pack. I love the scene when it turns on.
Ah, thank you.
It's perfect.
Did you notice that we added the switch?
Yeah.
That was something that I always wondered where it was in 1984.
Exactly.
You know, there's that scene in the elevator and he switches on, but you don't see the switch. And they never put a switch on it, so we finally had to add one.
It's the best scene in the movie. It's like it's the whole spirit of the movie is there, I think.
Thank you.
And